Hey guys, continuing on my Humble Games binge for January, we got Vampire the Masquerade, Shadows of New York. Got some smoking vampires here wearing a cross for some reason, but here we go. This came out September, I think. It's from what I see, it's a visual novel. Welcome to my castle. Okay. Don't expect everyday logic to work here. It went out of the window sometime after midnight, maybe earlier. My kingdom is not of this world, you see. It lies far outside a concrete, tangible reality. I've tried to identify the way people reach it, but I'm convinced it has something to do with the moon. Some say the moon's aura can turn them insane. I've heard of the phrase moonstruck and lunatic. The way I see it, moonlight gives them some subliminal permission to reveal their true selves. And so, wherever they let the silver radiance guide them to the gates of this place, they feel different. Once they pass the doorstep, they're ready to act out. A dance of horrors and marvels begin. It's 3:31 a.m. Welcome to Big Beat Burger. You hear at this hour, you're not exactly readying up to be a productive member of society come tomorrow morning. More than likely, you're praying that the sunrise never comes. Insatiable children of the night gather around, hoping to bask in the in the afterglow of tonight's victories, unwind after a frustrating series of failures, or simply fight to keep themselves together. Meanwhile, I'm just sitting here, greedily. Text scrolls too fast. Greedily reveling in every interaction they have. They have no idea they're only here for my amusement. To them, I'm just a random girl sitting in the corner. Interesting. So it's a female main character, and you don't have a choice. Well, if this is a visual novel, I guess everything's. Do you have any choices that affect the story at all? Is my question. But this is my domain. I've been coming here almost every night for years. I know where to sit, where to look, and where to eavesdrop for maximum amusement. I'm basically a voyeur and unashamed to admit it. It gave me insight about the human condition I'd never otherwise have gathered, and more importantly, a necessary skill set to make ends meet as a journalist. As I read on my crappy old laptop, patiently waiting for the legion of negative voices in my head to get too tired to offer useless feedback, I keep my senses peeled to pick up stories around me. Of course, a lot of regular events such as food fights are nothing to write home about, aside from my unfortunate tendency to become collateral damage in someone else's. I don't know, has anyone ever been in a food fight? I've never experienced this. Up to this day, I've had to wash my clothes because of Coke, Diet Coke, hot coffee, apple pie, and some sort of improvised honey mustard bomb. Every state tells a different story. Sometimes this hobby is exhausting, sometimes it's disturbing, sometimes it's dangerous, although not as risky as back when I wasn't carrying pepper spray. Still, the sights I've taken in over the years here have made it absolutely worth it. I've got so many stories, I don't know where to begin. Theatrical breakups, impromptu morning parties, unexpected friendships forged in the fires of senseless battle. A lady in a gorgeous Givenchy dress. No idea if that's a real brand or if it's fake. Probably made up. It doesn't sound real. Ordering a box of takeout chicken nuggets, paying in cash for her hands completely covered in blood. She was asked if she wants a napkin. She said no. Two thirsty macho dudes shamelessly going forward in the corner, hushed moaning, filling the lobby while everyone around valiantly fights to act as normal and maintain an illusion of normalcy, as usual. A straight-up kung fu fight between a diminutive cashier and some drugged bodybuilder going through a psychotic episode, trying to break all the windows. The big guy left the joint fully convinced he KO'd himself, while the service worker was just standing next to him. He seemed proud of his victory too. A middle-aged hag getting a heart attack after screaming her lungs out not to let Muslims near her food, just because she saw a white girl wearing a hairnet behind the counter. A masked couple robbing a restaurant of 30 hamburgers, forcing the employees to cook at gunpoint. Police later said those were art students, reenacting some hipster book they read. This is life. This is humanity at its worst and best. This is the noise that serves as the foundation for my creativity. This is the soma that keeps me going. This is... Oh. As pathetic as it may sound, these days, this is the only place where I feel alive. Sometimes I think of myself as a leech, feeding on those people's stories, emotions, and personalities, just because I'm not satisfied with mine. Well, that's interesting because she's... Well, I'm assuming she's going to become an actual leech as a vampire. At times, I think of my psyche as some kind of shitty postmodern construct that is fundamentally incapable of honesty, but only yearns for something felt and truthful. This doesn't even make any sense. I look at the screen of my laptop, 3:47 a.m. At this point, I'm almost somnambulic, which is sleep. It's the term for sleepwalking. But nothing interesting has happened yet. It feels like all the customers are watching each other tonight, hoping for the others to provide a fun diversion. This is my turf, you parasitic douchebags. Next time, go find your... I think it's time to call it a night. Ugh, I reread the rough draft I've been working on for the last 6 hours. Goddamn, this is pure trash. I hold the backspace button until the Google Documents page is nothing but a calm white slate and let out a sigh of deep relief. There's no pleasure more intoxicating for a frustrated writer than ragging on someone even worse than them. And what target is easier than the dumb bitch you used to be 10 minutes ago? Time to go. Sleep's important, guys. You gotta get your sleep. A loud clatter of keyboards assaults me from all sides. Makes a splitting headache unbearable. Oh. So she's still a human. I'm pretty sure this is a fake newspaper. It used to be I dreamed of nothing else but being a part of the New York Lodestar editorial team. It was the first magazine I started reading regularly. The first magazine I ever bought for myself. Now simply hearing the word Lodestar is enough to ruin my mood. Never mind seeing all these old farts phoning in more reactionary opinion columns and Wikipedia level analysis of current events. Oh. Talent drain? Yeah. Hear that a lot in game developing companies. All of them committed the sin of allowing themselves to grow older. Fresh blood, well, can you stop? We can in this game, I suppose, in this universe, I suppose. Fresh blood was deemed unnecessary, even though the young freelancers kept being bled dry. I wonder if this is like some indie game devs, like, actual experience they're putting in here. Because that's a criticism that keeps getting pointed at the games industry. These days, whenever someone from outside Lodestar talks about Lodestar, it's because of a few idealistic contributors willing to accept meager pay while putting in serious work. Dumbasses. So it's about stagnation. No wonder their readership is in free fall. But even though the ship is sinking, the old guard won't let it go down without a fight. As in, if anyone from the outside attempts to board the vessel in hopes of fixing its course or its holes, they will be swiftly taken care of. I should know. Been there, done that. As it stands, the only full-time member who doesn't make me regularly attempt to cringe my face off with his writing. Oh, it's crying. Nope. So Lodestar's editor-in-chief, Brian Ng. Oh. The man's sitting in front of me right now. Of course, he only has time for editorial these days. A drop in the sea of needs. Managerial duties hit him hard. See the Perry White of the story? Okay. What do you want me to say, Brian? Pissed off. I can tell you've already made up your mind, but you still want to go through the motions, just to make me feel listened to. Whatever, let's do this. Huh. We can retroactively decide what we're writing about. Brian, my article isn't even something like lashing out at the rich and hoping they don't hit back. I think Double Spiral's investors would appreciate being told they're being scammed. That's if, and that's a big if they're not a conscious part of the scam. Oh, come on. And even if they weren't, I doubt they'd be generous enough to protect us from the fallout. avoiding the core of the issue. Now, I believe I pinpointed it in a precise way. If it were up to me, I'd greenlight the article here and now, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. But you're killing the article just because some rich shithead told you he doesn't like it. Well, this presumably happens a lot. Get real. This is not about some millionaire jerk calling me to making me an offer I can't refuse. What is it about that? Because it looks awfully like. It's about my bosses telling me this outlet can't afford the legal action we have already been threatened with. So millionaire interference. I publish your story, it's Steele versus Gawker all over again. A lawsuit here, a lawsuit there, until we're bled dry. I have a mortgage, I have 3 mouths waiting to be fed at home. I have an amazing team that doesn't deserve to be torn apart over some. Don't you think it's telling you mentioned your mortgage first? I know better than to get into these empty semantic arguments with you, Miss Sawinski. You're good at them. The problem is, you're still not good enough. Meaning? You're too in love with weaving a good story and establishing a seductive narrative to let facts get in the way. You've got enough boring suits with no principles on board these days. They always give you facts because that's all they can do. I'm using facts as a kind of way to approach some new kind of truth. Except the facts can blindside you, and Double Spiral has enough facts to water down your story to the point where it makes no sense to publish it. Their HR and PR are working overtime to deliver a convincing narrative, and they're doing a great job. It won't mitigate the damage completely, but we'll put every little thing in question. Ooh. Jesse Montgomery. Racist, a fraud, a sexual predator, and a downright satanic bucket. Ooh. Listen to the tapes, you've read the transcripts, you've seen the documents, you got the files. I'm asking for your personal opinion. Do you believe it or not? Of course I do, but that's beside the point. Got a mortgage, 3 mouths to feed. Prioritize the well-being of your direct surroundings over some nebulous concept of greater good. I get it, I really do. Yet for some reason, it seems like you're only prolonging this conversation and rationalizing your decision so that I forgive you, officially exonerate you. Okay. Turn this into a pity party. Oh, damn. Oh, bam. Uh-oh. Only interviewing total nobodies, always busy traveling to the middle of nowhere, or regretting my last trip, repeatedly ordered to clean up someone else's mess. Well, all your long-winded spiels about how the disposable work is the most important work, and suddenly you only remember the disposable part? My feelings about the quality of your work remain the same as ever. It was vital. It kept the magazine going. I'll always appreciate it. Well, I would never threaten you. It's a done deal. They made their decision perfectly clear. They? What they? Who is they? He glances up and right, left and right, and then points upward for a short moment. When he speaks up again, it's in a hushed voice. You know, the big kahunas. Can't really question them, and they wanted your head on a silver platter. They're not joking. I would never joke about stuff like this. Well, hey, at least it's not in the middle of a pandemic. I wish I didn't have to, but it's a lost cause. Losar has been my biggest source of income for the last few years, but that much is true. But technically, no one has ever hired me here. It was all freelance jobs. A full-time position only served as a kind of a dangling carrot. A promise of a decent pay grade, career perspectives, maybe even some kind of insurance to save my failing health. And the recognition I would get for being a part of the Lodestar team. A A position that everyone around me seems to respect. Then why don't I want it so much? Okay. You know what I mean. If I let you work, even under a fake name, it would be a guillotine for me. In response, let us worry about that. Well, that doesn't sound ominous at all. Does this tie into the greater plot that they're trying to get rid of her? Okay. I've been working on this fucking story for, I don't know, 16 months on and off. We have even agreed on the pay and receive. I know. I'm 2 months behind on my rent. No, wait, 2.5. Okay, just gotta... No worries. Nick turned it off a few weeks ago. Probably the most creative thing he's done in the last 5 years. Good old Nick. The perfect 21st century cinema reviewer. Never has an original thought of his own. Just relies on his purely algorithmic taste to stay likable. And the best thing? It works. Funny thing is, I used to dream about his job. It was Brian who killed his dream. Making me realize Nick won't be unseated anytime soon. And offered to teach me the ways of an investigative journalist instead. Wasn't the career I ever wanted to pursue, but to my dismay, it turned out to be surprisingly good at. Until this Montgomery thing happened. No, serves me right. Lesson learned. Should have pursued my dreams instead. Okay. At the end of the day, bosses aren't friends. Must have been a terrible mentor if I didn't even teach him that. I'll do what I can not to leave you stranded, okay? There are options. None of them are a remedy for all your troubles, but... Mila Lopez. She claims she has been laid off from Double Spiral, same as Mike Antonov and Jared Rivera. Spare all her insults, okay? The key thing is, it seems their HR knows of all the confidential information about my journalistic investigation and used it to shut everyone's mouths. Ooh. Damn. Apparently Montgomery walked up to Lopez as she was emptying her desk and told her to thank me for being a, quote, dumb and careless C-word. Ooh. Oh, she added her sources? Oh, don't you dare play coy. It must have either been you or me and no one else. And you know the way I work. My investigation was basically untraceable, both on and offline. Carefully picked meeting spots, encryption upon encryption. Every direct quote rewritten 5 times, just in case. All sorts of red herrings scattered around. I know my shit. You know what I do. Uh-oh. And this timing? Did you just pass a flash drive to your beloved Big Kahunas during a meeting as a sign of goodwill? Oh, damn. They're all the same? Oh. Uh-oh. It's always the boss, the economy, the allegations you have, and now me. Ooh. Ooh, she's at it. Dakota? What the hell is this? Oh, okay, that's the most Julia Sawinski thing I've heard. Spite as the greatest motivator, huh? Let's recap this last week. I've been kicked out of my job. Well, not that I ever been hired, so let's just say my mentor broke every vague promise he ever made to me. Big thing I've been working on for a year and a half went down the toilet. It's all useless. My boss didn't even protect my sources properly, and now they keep trying to reach me through every single possible channel to threaten me or just yell at me. They have every right to react like that. All of my side gigs are shut down. Nobody's replying to my emails. Someone's been dragging my name through the mud behind the scenes, and it worked. Dakota. Okay. Call came from Chicago. Apparently, Dad has bladder cancer. Mom is in hysterics. She'd go crazy if she heard about my situation, so I have to pretend everything is okay whenever she calls. She calls every day. Oh. Paranoid is good. Anyways. Oh. Okay, so who's this Dakota? Oh. Whoa. Okay, so this is, I guess, this is the vampire attack. When I come to, I'm out of the subway, standing in a back alley I don't recognize. It's pretty dark. My eyes start adjusting and I try to figure out what happened. Ooh. Somebody stands in front of me, covered in shadows. I can't fully make out her face, but she's staring at me with visible intent. Oh, aren't you a nasty one? What's going on? My mind goes blank. I look at the ground. There's a body riddled with bullet holes, and I recognize who it was. Oh, it's a setup. The corpse belonged to Mike Antonov, one of the double spiral whistleblowers. My source. He was just threatening to get back at me a few hours ago. Before I can feel even the tiniest bit of compassion, I face a terrible realization. They'll think I'm guilty. Nope. Don't play cool. Oh, okay. Trying to gaslight you into thinking, nothing yet, but I'll do what I can to get you locked up for life. Murder in the first degree with special circumstances. Yeah. Oh, well, I'm not a coward. I'll let you walk out of here. Oh, okay. This doesn't make... Because sometimes one has to confront what they're really made of. What? Ah, well, getting gaslighted right now. I mean, what choice do you... Should we? No. Oh. Oh, okay. Damn, not even worth drinking. Oh, is that it? Wow, you have to do it. The comfort of death will come for kind and kindred alike. Okay, I guess you just have to do it. That's, you just get a game over if you don't. Wow. Okay, this is pretty brutal. So what do? Do you just restart the thing? Oh. Huh. Okay, can you fast forward? I wonder. Oh, okay. Is there a way to skip forward? Hold on. Oh, should I have saved? Oh boy. Skip. Okay, control. Keep going. Okay, tick. You were a right choice after all. Oh, okay, well, that's the only way. Ah, okay. Then you get, this was your final test. Congratulations, you've proven yourself worthy. Oh. Okay. The dopamine receptors I've considered completely fried until now suddenly recover and start bombarding me with pleasure I've never known before. Huh. Is it raining? I feel like I'm in the middle of a deluge at least. Washing away all of my fears, all my sorrows, all my anger, all my pain, and all of my ego. My Become one with the world and one behind. This is not you. This is a familiar, cynical voice in the back of your head. In the back of my head. It's okay. I've never felt particularly fond of me anyway. He who laughs in the shadows always has the last laugh. Nope. Pretty sure I've been dead for a while. I'm pretty sure I can stare at my own corpse in her hands from a distance. For a moment, somehow. Taste blood. I realize that whatever this was, it's over. And I have to bask in the afterglow while I still can. Now, no matter what happens next, don't forget, you're a monster. But you were lucky enough to be born into a world of monsters, so don't you ever mourn the effect. Huh? There we go. That's the intro. You gotta do it. Oh, back in Big Beat Theater. A vampire. Oh. Dictionary. Okay. I met Karen. She embraced me, by which I mean turned me into a kindred. She calls herself my sire, and me her child. You gotta get the lore down. Last night she taught me the basics of survival. Drinking blood, manipulating humans, bending steel, controlling shadows. Tonight I expected more lessons. Instead she just told me to go out and enjoy myself. What's the catch? I asked, to which she responded, I might kill you if you prove to be a disappointment. There are a few rules. I have to uphold the Masquerade. Oh, there it is. I can't contact anyone I knew as a human. I can't let anyone realize I'm not human anymore. I can't embrace anyone, and so on. Otherwise, I'm free to do whatever I want. Free, for some reason, the first thing I did was to come here. Old habits die hard. Karen is probably... Karen with a C! She's probably watching me from somewhere even now. The way I understand it, tomorrow night she's supposed to introduce me to the Camarilla, a local society of vampires. Masquerade. The systemic secrecy of vampires is built to conceal our world from humankind, in order to protect us. Essentially, the Masquerade is our shield against the fear and ignorance of human beings. Make no bones about it. If the vast majority of people ever learn we exist, we will be hunted to extinction. Turns out they are the ones who have been systematically ruining my life lately, all a part of some secret evaluation I barely passed. Just imagining the reach they have makes me dizzy. After they destroyed the old me that I barely cared about, Karen rebuilt me anew. On one hand, her test left some scars that will take time to heal. On the other hand, maybe I should just be grateful? Goodbye, BBB. Hope I never see you. Oh, destined for greater things, you see. Whoa, got some... You just select what you... There's no, like, manual save option? Yeah, wow, there's no loading... You have to go in one go. Meathead bullying his unfortunate victim. Retributive justice. Okay. Do you just, brawny, rugged guys yelling at metal staircases with theatrical incredulity in his voice. Pitiful victim, what is this bullshit? He's smiling, but his eyes send a clear message. You're cornered, buddy. Don't even try to pull a fast one on me. Come on, homeboy. You may be able to trick an average show on the street with your act, but a fighter recognizes a fighter. It's like an animal thing. Hmm? A rib for a ribbing. Biblical punishment. It's only fair, homie. This thing's not about proper competence. So wrong. Anderson Silva? Oh, okay. This is an MMA thing, I'm guessing. Watched it live. Weidman saw through all of Silva's tricks, whooped his ass, broke his spirit. Showed him for a fraud he is. The man hasn't been the same ever since. All the empty showboating, hollow taunting, drunk on his own Kool-Aid. Jesus, of course you idolize him, asshole. Okay. Oh. He's got no idea how I managed to sneak up behind me. I don't blame him. I wouldn't be able to explain myself. Okay, we do some vampire stuff. Okay. What? You got multiple choice, you'll sweep the leg? It's probably the dumbest flashiest move I could have done, but I'm feeling more confident than ever. I know what he's thinking. I should have blocked it. He absolutely should have. Whoa. But instead, he just flails his arms helplessly, as if he found himself in front of an oncoming train. Hasn't noticed anything out of her. Good. I was worried I might have overdone it a bit. That woman did say that keeping a low profile would be crucial if I want to survive. Wallet, please. Oh, never mind. You gotta go through all three of them? Yeah. The risks of swiping right. Oh. You turn the tables on this guy. Do you have to do all three of them? I don't know. Club breaks. Not particularly interested in, not my scene. Car burning on a freeway, an outstretched hand in the depths of the sea. A man jumping out of a skyscraper window. Gets visions now? Memories of the past? Preventable visions of the future? I have no idea what it means, but I'm strangely eager to find out. Okay. Well, earlier today I started experimenting with his body's limits. I realized I can jump over small buildings. Wait, can they really jump that high? I mean, vampires can fly in mythology, right? But can you really Superman jump buildings? That's kind of weird. Spot a drone from afar. For a second I feel uneasy, but I remember what she told me. Machines won't get a clear view of me anymore. Camera footage, photos, it's all glitched out or blurry. Oh. Okay, convenient plot reasons. Wouldn't take it for granted. If I didn't try to catch my reflection earlier on, I couldn't even see my face clearly, not in the mirror, not even the puddle. My face was like one of Dolly's clocks. So she told me to keep a low profile regardless. Someone might take note and track you down. She didn't care to elaborate, but it didn't sound encouraging. Can't even see your own face again. What about the long-term psychological effects? What else is going to change? These past few nights have been the best of my life. For a few years, I was on a downward spiral. Failing health, no future, feeling of overwhelming powerlessness. Dictionary update. It's clan. Julius traits. No, nothing? Okay. We're gonna meet the, things we're looking up. Oh, back at Big B Burger. I mean, it's not like I wasn't expecting everything to go back to the old depressing normal. Even in the thick of it, the rational part of me recognized my state as temporary. With these highs, there's always a hope it won't end. Or maybe that an ego death will finally occur. Aimlessness to powerlessness to spiritual exhaustion. These goddamn fast food trips. I watched this obscure Asian movie once, Eli Lima Sabashtani, starring Tadanobu Asano. Okay, that's a real actor. He's a Japanese actor. Tadanobu Asano plays the coolest guy, plays this Merzbow-like figure. A legendary. Is this a real? Hold on. Let me Google this. This is like an actual movie. Hold on. Oh, Sabak. No, it is not. What is the meaning of it? Oh. It translates as, to my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Is Aramaic. Okay. So is this an actual movie? Or are they just throwing in, wordplay? Okay, it is a film. 2017. Shot in Mumbai. Yeah, okay. No. There is an international film with that title, but it's not. This is the details are made up. There's this mysterious virus spreading across the world, causing despair and mass suicides. A rich CEO's granddaughter gets sick and longs to die, so he spends a fortune searching for the cure. Turns out Asano and his friend, played by this violent Onsen Geisha guy. What? That doesn't make any sense. Are traveling through Japan, searching the corpse-strewn towns and fields for any unique item that can produce beautiful sounds. As it turns out, the avant-garde walls of noise they create are able to heal the infected. The CEO begs the band to help, offering them all the money they want, but for some reason they refuse. Through a series of flashbacks, concerts, and vignettes, a mystery unfolds. Eventually, we realize that Asano's music is not just a remedy, it's also the cause of the virus. Whenever it connects with people, they get this hunger for more extreme, more novel experiences. And eventually they hit a wall. Nothing can satisfy them anymore. They lose their will to live. Not even the musicians are spared from this curse. They know the end will come sooner or later. The girl is saved by a mind-blowing concert. But the tragedy is merely postponed, not averted. The last shot of a Jesus like Asano, silently considering his role as a savior and destroyer, stayed with me. The form of the film is abrasive. Little to no narrative cohesion. Oh yeah, I forgot she wanted to be a movie reviewer. Some weird cartoonish creative choices. The Japanese noise soundtrack, the very freeform and hard to understand weave of themes. But at this point, movies like this are all that truly connect with me. I'm the New York City representative of the La Sombra clan, also known as the Night Clan. They are masters of shadows who can cast distorted reflections and make modern tech go haywire in their presence. Okay, Clan La Sombra. That's us, the Night Clan. Other kindred call us magisters, abyss mystics, or turncoats, if they want to drive home the fact that many La Sombra switched sects in recent years. The way Karen told the story, we used to be the brains behind the Sabbat, a pretty nasty group working in opposition to the Camarilla. They've since left for the Middle East for the most part, but a sizable chunk of my clan opted out and changed sides. Traditionally, we were entrenched in the Catholic Church back in Europe, but not for mystical reasons. Our path was that of coercion and puppetry, so pulling the strings of important religious leaders was just a means to an end. The Night Clan is also borderline Darwinian in their philosophy about embracing new members. The shittiest period of my life was fully orchestrated by Karen in order to see if I was a good La Sombra material. They do not care for losers who just take it lying down. But then there's the dark. I'm still coming to grips with it, but apparently shadows aren't just absences of light to us. They're openings into some kind of hell, and we can wield them, or even use them to contact the dead. The downside, we share a classic vampire feature, in that we don't really have clear reflections. This also transfers to not playing well with cameras, and by extension, having issues dealing with technology in general. Okay, so the other vampires don't have this problem, possibly? Okay, last year, a few months ago before I was embraced, the La Sombra had joined with the Camarilla, the biggest and most traditional sect in the vampire world. The two groups actually used to fight each other. Well, it makes sense, one's the newer, manipulative. But our leaders found some intel that made them reconsider their strategy. So they sent a diplomatic mission to parley with their historic enemies. The deal they got in Chicago was simple, an unlife for an unlife. For every La Sombra vampire allowed in the Ivory Tower, one La Sombra vampire has to meet their ultimate end. Whoa! Are you serious? You had to have the Ivory Tower. Another name for the Camarilla, usually used in less official, occasionally derogatory context. Okay. They had to get rid of half their clan. I still remember the name of the woman who met her final death, so I can begin my own life. Her name was Hester Reed, a sworn enemy of the Camarilla, a guerrilla fighter who spent decades opposing them. She was someone with far better principles than mine, from what I gathered. Well, whoever she was, her execution by my sire seemed to convince the NYC elites to give La Sombra a chance. Then they set out to look for a mutually agreed-upon candidate who would become the clan's rep in the city. My sire searched for someone who gave the impression she was more than she appeared. The local court was looking for someone they could walk all over. After long negotiations, they decided I was a good compromise. Oh, okay. The Turncoat Special, they called it. Somehow I succeeded. Valerie. Oh. Yes, Miss Duval, I hope you enjoy your stay in London. Oh, I very much doubt I will. Just like every cultured person. I think the only good Englishman is a dead Englishman. Damn. Got some Antonio. It's your hereditary council in the Dustborn you hate so much. One of the benefits of being a scourge, if there's one thing this world is never in shortage of, it's the loathsome runoffs who forfeited their right to live. What the hell is that? Final death. Death for mortals is defined as the total cessation of all biological activities. But vampires, being undead, face two moments of dying. The first when their mortal life ends, and the second, final one, when they truly cease to exist. Okay. About thin bloods. Clanless vampires whose blood is so diluted they are difficult to tell apart from humans. Minus the irreversible sunlight-branded crescent moon tattoos. They must bear in some domains to show their status. Thin bloods have been subject to decades of pogroms, prejudice, and discrimination. But despite that, their numbers are currently growing. Their human passing appearance, coupled with their penchant for weird alchemy-style shenanigans, gives them the ability to thrive outside a kindred society. Bigotry and violence against thin bloods are quite normalized by the kindred, to the point where it is not at all uncommon to hear of them being killed or referred to as a threat to the Masquerade. Funnily enough, the NYC Camarilla acknowledges them and even offers them membership, but they're third-class citizens at best, and their representative in the Primogen is considered the butt of jokes at best, and a slap in the face of other council members at worst. Even though they supposedly have it better in this city than in other Camarilla domains, when they step out of line, consciously or not, the verdict tends to be final death, with barely a second thought. Sometimes referred to as weaklings or runoffs. Less vitriolic nicknames would include young ones, chameleons, or the dustborn. A very unpleasant person whose sole task is to hunt down vampires who are born wrong. Locally, that mostly means thin bloods. Subordinated directly to the prince. The prince, huh? That will be all. Tell Kadir I said hello and farewell. Safe travels. I'm the lone La Sombra in this town, and my representational role means jack shit. No title, no perks, no whatever. Right now I'm the court's gopher, doing all sorts of work nobody else will touch. It's kind of exactly the same thing you did when you were alive. My main duties? Being a sort of immigration officer. See, New York City is probably the biggest vampire travel hub in the USA, and definitely the biggest one on the East Coast. Almost every kindred arriving from Africa and Europe comes through here. The local Camarilla is nuts about bureaucracy and population control, so every vampire leaving or arriving in this town is supposed to check with me to inform me about their travels. Well, in theory at least. The VIPs play by different rules. They take care of this stuff through connections and servants. But for the smaller fish, I'm like a vampire Statue of Liberty. The first bloodsucker every kindred coming to NYC should see. On paper, anyway. The first after the Prince, or Kadir, the Primogen Council. These things vary. Yeah, I'm a naturally traitorous little something, so they still prefer being traditional and hands-on about these things. What about the Prince, where the buck stops? The big boss of a given domain, usually a city. Okay, so there are multiple princes. These are the kindred you don't want to cross. Those who have secured and held onto their claim against all other contenders. Prince is a gender-neutral title for vampires. Hence, NYC's head honcho, Helene Panhard, also calls herself that. The Primogen Council. The Prince's advisors, usually elders, though mostly the younger so-called Ancilla in NYC, who represent the interests of the local kindred. Traditionally, each major clan, faction, or sect would be given a place on the council. This framework naturally favors a Camarilla, though anyone can bring grievances to a Primogen not of their own clan. There are a few other rules governing who can become a Primogen, but recent decades have seen the old paradigms shifting rapidly. Locally, Prince Panhard asks the council's advice often, but it's no secret she mostly uses the Primogen to confirm a course of action she's already made up her mind about. Okay, I mean, it happens a lot in politics, right? You just want confirmation for, validation for a decision you made already. As I said, at the end of the day, I'm just a gopher. And this work only serves to remind me I'm not quite in, just standing at the gate. They haven't even given me an office. I just meet everyone in public areas, such as coffee shops or this fast food restaurant. Some consider this an insult, and lash out at me. But luckily, most of them understand we're in the same boat. Only here because we're curs who need to be reminded of our place from time to time. Speaking of, my last client is 15 minutes late. I still have more errands to run tonight. This is getting irritating. To be honest, I should just find some self-respect and leave. But I won't. My sorry upbringing left me with this stupid sense of responsibility. 10 more minutes passed. Eventually, an unfamiliar woman appears by the door. She tells someone to stand by the door and walks in. Long chestnut hair, body stuck in her late teens by the looks of it, a fashionable scarf covering most of her face, elegant clothes, dignified walk. I signal her to sit in front of me, trying best not to let my impatience show. She obliges. Here, check in? I am. Julia Sawinski, I presume? Interesting, they still use their human names. I mean, with a rebirth, shouldn't you pick a new name? She scans her surroundings like we're at a circus. I hope you don't mind if we make it quick. I'm needed in Elysium. Elysium is a courthouse for vampires, or a designated peaceful place we can go to seek resolution. Often hidden in plain sight by notable public buildings, also used by mortals, such as museums, art galleries, and landmark government offices. NYC is pretty typical in this respect, as the current Elysium is a gallery in Queens called the Art Hole. Well, I'm not a fan of art or museums, so I don't know if that place actually exists, even though I do live in Queens. Catherine Weiss. I swear I've heard that name before. Someone else's description of her crosses my mind. That weird lady who owns the art hole but is never there? Weird? So it is her, Catherine Weiss, the owner of the art hole, de facto headquarters in the New York City Camarilla. For fuck's sake, Julia, what are you doing calling her weird right off the bat? God knows you've already made a fool of yourself in front of enough VIPs in the city. Recover. Sorry, it's just that I still don't know how many people there. I don't know many people there, so I have to go by the description given by members of the Primogen. Well, the description is mostly correct. Outside of that one word that slightly perplexes me. Pot calling the kettle black sounds like. From what I gather, it's just that your interests are rumored to be, not fully aligned with the Camarillas, and it irks some folks up there. Being a keeper of the Elysium is not enough for some, I see. I suspected as much. But what can you do? She seems chill, good. Anyways, Catherine Weiss. Wow. Yes, want me to spell it? People often have trouble getting it right. Forgive my indiscretion, it's just other people your stature usually don't bother checking in with me. They usually report their arrival to one of the Primogen, and they make all the arrangements. I heard Prince Panhard is busy with the preparations for a big party. I assumed that if I spared her some paperwork, she'd appreciate it as a gesture of goodwill. Besides, I wanted to meet the infamous La Sombra representative out of sheer curiosity. My interest peaked once I heard about her. She looks around knowingly. Unique circumstances. Yes, Prince Helene Panhard had trouble justifying the exorbitant rent my property would need. That's literally pennies for her. And as far as I know, she's been sitting on an empty property since last year. Looks like they've got it out for you. Bad. That's what I assumed, but it's nice to get a confirmation. Well, it's not like my clan has ever been particularly popular in these parts. At least that's what I heard. Sins of the father, and so on. Yes, just to make sure, you've never met Hester, but you know of her? I do know I wouldn't be here if not for her. Have you two met? No, I only heard of her once or twice. We had similar outlooks on many issues, although we tended to come up with completely different solutions. In any case, I think it's meaningful that Hester died so you could live. They feared her. Now they fear you. And that's why they're keeping you now. If anyone who's not a VIP said this to me, I'd laugh in their faces. Oh, I get what she's doing. She's trying to buy my favors. Best not to act like I'm easy to please. Stick to business. Time will tell. In the meantime, I need you to help me out with my documentation, of course. So where are you coming from? Washington, D.C. She says it the way people in Hollywood movies say it. The way that suggests her Washington is wildly different from the Washington you and I would see. What were you doing there? Take a guess. Government work? Write that down. It ought to amuse Helene for a little bit. If you say so. Date and hour of arrival? She takes out a plane ticket and slides it towards me. It's all here. 1 a.m. Got it. Method of transit, plane, purpose of visit. Meeting with Prince ought to work just fine, I guess. Estimated duration of visit? Undefined. Write in 6 months if you really need to. Place of accommodation, conditions of intended stay, yard hole. Conditions should be adequate. You tell me. I tend to be happy with Airbnb. Home sweet home? I'm not certain I ever felt particularly at home here. Makes two of us. Curious, do you have nothing holding you here? The face of a blonde-haired friend appears in my mind's eye and then vanishes. There's nothing holding me anywhere. I see. Prolonged silence. She stares into my eyes and returns the stare. She's studying me. It's unnerving, but I do my best not to turn away. Eventually she smiles. Didn't say you were short on time? Oh god, yes. Kadir will kill me. I quickly begin to collect my stuff from underneath the table. You can simply inform him I paid you a visit. He'll understand and he'll pass it on to everyone who should be in the know. Need anything else? I'm fine. I was about to ask you that myself. You're the one asking questions here. It's all from me. Good. We will see each other soon, I hope. The party tomorrow night. I wasn't invited. She gives me a pitying look. I understand. Well, if not given the opportunity, we should make our own. I'll be in touch. Good night, Miss Weiss. I wish you a pleasant stay. Good night. And don't rush these things. You've got your whole on life ahead of you, and you're in a position where you can take it easy. Take your time. Get a different perspective. So night. I wish. You're late again, by the way. I hope you have a good excuse. Kadir al-Asmi, Asmai. The mighty sheriff of New York City is not happy with me. No wonder. I met him in front of Elysium 30 minutes later than we had agreed on. The sheriff. An appointed officer who okay, this is just the law enforcement officer. Enforces the prince's edicts, and if Kadir is any measure, a real stick in the mud. A sheriff hunts down traitors and violators of their traditions. Only the greatest offenders are typically apprehended and brought back, to be judged in front of assembled courts. In lesser cases, sheriffs act as judge, jury, and executioner. Yeah, well, Catherine fucking Weiss decided to arrive fashionably late. A likely story. She's supposed to be out of the city. If you think I'm pulling your leg, boss, feel free to check my report. I pass him all the official papers, the way I do every other night. Kadir stares me down for a good seconds, and his steely gaze softens. You're serious? Weiss, at McDonald's. With the mask and elegant clothes, surrounded by the smell of French fries and hamburger patties, that must have been one hell of a sight. Technically, it was BBB, not McDonald's. But yeah. God, I made such a fool of myself. First thing I did, I quoted somebody calling her a weirdo. I want to die on the spot. Serves you right, you walking faux pas. I've been trying to teach you to control your tongue, but you never learn. It's a new gaffe every week with you. Still, there's good news and bad news. The good news is Catherine has a fondness for vampires of humble beginnings. Probably why she decided to see you in your, shall we say, natural habitat. She's one of those rich art scene assholes who seek out working class cred. I did say something about watching your tongue. The bad news is she's very astute, so she can recognize a moron like you straight away. You never stood a chance at impressing her. Oh, shut up. You still need me for anything here? I'll get on it straight away. I wouldn't be standing out here chatting with you if I hadn't taken care of my duties. 30 minutes is all it took to finish preparations for the big party. I'm about to see everyone off. Sorry. Couldn't be helped, I suppose. It's more your loss than mine. I just wanted some company tonight, and you really could use the chance to appear here on official duties, so everyone can get to know your face. Heaven knows your fast food job isn't going to get you anywhere. You need to, call it hustle? You don't need to tell me that. But it's not like being paraded around for a bunch of blue-blooded douchebags is. He somehow manages to give me a painful nudge in the back without so much as a hint of invisible movement. Language, you fool. They're coming out. And just stand here in silence for 5 minutes and focus on not embarrassing yourself any further, will you? Got it. Well, the first two silhouettes appear in the doorway of the art hole. An old man in a wheelchair, pushed forward by his young servant. Haven't seen either of them before. Huh. What's that contraption on his neck? Mr. Payne, the night is still young. Hope you find the rest of it pleasant. Payne, the wheelchair. I've heard about him. Addison Payne, one of the American Camarilla's main connections to the government and Wall Street. Disabled in quite a few ways, needs a servant to communicate. I'd be full of a resentment if I was embraced in this condition. Oh, so he was like this before he got turned. That's why he can't heal himself. Payne is nothing but grateful for his immortality. He keeps writing fervent defenses of the traditions of Camarilla customs. Stay silent. He wordlessly shakes Kadir's hand, but doesn't even deign to acknowledge me. At least his servant gives me a small bow. I return it. They leave. Kadir turns to the next person leaving. High Regent, can't wait to see you in your outfit. Spare me, Sheriff. These fancy dress parties can cause me enough suffering without your help. I can only hope you haven't conspired with Helene to embarrass me with this gift. She points to a shrink-wrapped set of clothes she carries around her coat. Kadir smirks briefly. I didn't have to. As you well know, Prince Panhard displays a considerable foresight in the matters of party planning. Yes, if there's one thing she's definitely serious about, it's frivolity. A recognizably mortal quality, especially for a prince. We ought to celebrate it, not oppose it. Don't worry, Sheriff. I'm a big girl who knows her etiquette. I'll play your game, amuse the crowd a little bit, and return to my study as fast as possible. Ising Sturbridge, High Regent of the Chantry of the Five Boroughs, a hero of the Battle of New York. That's a lore thing. I've heard of it before. The biggest warlock in town. Could be a prince herself if she didn't have her eyes on a bigger prize. Okay. Named after the 8th century hermetic mage whose followers, for a brief period, terrorized the world. Only members of Clan Tremere today are able to practice their reality-bending thaumaturgic magic after consuming fresh blood. This is because the Tremere of old fucked up in their relentless pursuit of immortality and were condemned. They have recently fallen into a great schism of competing houses, all vying for the title of rightful heir of their namesake's legacy. All about that rare, ancient artifact life. Nicknames include warlocks, hermetics, or transgressors. Chantry, where the Tremere hang out. A lot of crusty books and smoking beakers type of place. Regent, the principals of the schoolhouses of Tremere, also known as chantries. Every chantry has a regent who oversees the education of all Tremeres in attendance there. Regents may also hold positions on the Primogen Council and be active in the clan's strategic defenses. Thing is, nobody knows what the prize is. They only know that it has something to do with the goal of her thaumaturgical research. Whoever tried to find out what it is failed violently. Oh, I'm sure you're gonna have fun. Miss Lewinsky here just informed me Catherine Weiss is back in town. Safe to assume she will join our festivities. You're kidding me. She did say she will... it's not safe to assume, it's certain. She told me she will be here tomorrow night. Weiss. Excellent. I'd love to catch up with her. The barely concealed venom in her voice clearly suggests that, in fact, she'd hate to catch up with her. Yes, it looks like tomorrow night will be very special. But for now, I bid you adieu. And she's gone. There's some kind of story between Aisling and Weiss I should be aware of? You could say that. High Weejan Sturbridge once attempted to call for a blood hunt on Weiss. Oh. Final punishment sentencing a vampire to a final death at the fangs of their peers. The code of the kindred and the system for punishing transgression is the law of retaliation. Oh, try to get the death penalty on her? Wow, why? I've heard 5 different versions of the story, and all of them seem plausible. Catherine's relationship with the city is odd, to say the least. But hush for now. He's obviously trying to kill the conversation. The appearance of Thomas Arturo gives him a perfect way out. Mr. Arturo? Yo, what's with the weird... It's like some weird Elton John look. Allah's my. Keep up the good work, eh? Of course. Thomas Arturo, an architect by trade. He's a herald, a member of Prince Panhardt's inner circle, an eccentric whose thoughts seem to be 10 times faster than his words. Harpy. Kindred gossip master extraordinaire will often trade their wisdom for favors or political gain. While Harpy originated as an insult, some have taken the term back and wear it as a badge of pride. After all, who doesn't need a friend who has dirt on everyone? They're like spy masters, or they're... Ah, yes. This occurs. I should stand in their way and might force them to properly acknowledge my existence. You severely underestimate their dedication to ignore whelps like you. Just in case you're serious, I beg of you, don't. I've been meaning to ask you for a while now, but never had the opportunity. You really hate Arturo's guts, don't you? I have no strong feelings about Thomas Arturo whatsoever. Yeah, well, considering you're always listing positives about every local Camarilla representative under the moon, you might as well call them a language whelp. And as for Arturo, I will share my opinion about him as soon as I come up with one that sticks for more than a week. Kindred, no? Only a noble-looking woman steps next to us. She's wearing a hijab, but curiously enough, primogen. If you were rude enough to stare, you'd quickly notice the cloth serves mostly to cover up her horrifying scars. Kadir, oh, and young Julia. Doing best not to stare because Samir is one of the few NYC Camarilla figures who hasn't been an asshole to me yet. Still here? Did the prince require the clan of the Hunt council in some manner? Clan of the Hunt. The Banu Hakim, called Assamites in the past, but that's basically a slur at this point, are a new addition to the Camarilla, only having joined a few years before. Before that, they were independent from both the Cam and the Anarchs. They were used to being assassins for hire. Supposedly very good at their job too. Nowadays, it looks like they rebranded themselves as Keeper of the Law, which still gives them the occasional chance to hunt somebody down, but no longer for payment in blood, as used to be a tradition. Or at least not overtly. The one member of the clan that I know well, Samira, is pretty cagey about this aspect of the Banu Hakim, but I learned from a few other sources that members of the clan have a bit of a drinking problem. Once they taste another kindred's blood, they find it hard to stop. Their inclusion in the Camarilla seems to have stirred some discontent among the Tremere, as the lawmen use a form of blood sorcery to boost their abilities and observe different rituals. Some of them clearly isn't religiously motivated, owned in no small part to the fact that the clan has been traditionally tied to Islam and the Middle East in general. Whelp is how you refer to your kid when they're fucking up. Kadir loves to use it to put me down from time to time. Yes, I advise her, no matter how hard she tries, she shouldn't expect me to wear a different costume tomorrow night. She's the Banu Hakim primogen. Just like the La Sombra, their clan was independent from the Camarilla until relatively recently. However, they negotiated a better deal than we did. They have a primogen, for one. Hailing from the Middle East, a bit. Oh, yeah, okay. I didn't need to read the thing. They just. The Banu Hakim are drawn to the practice of justice. The rules must be upheld and every transgression punished. They don't have much say in NYC, but the prince often seeks her judgment. It's just good PR. I trust she was understanding. Those are beautiful clothes. Thank you so much. Okay, well, damn, he's buttering her up. And how are you, Julia? Have you seen any lights at the end of the tunnel? Not even if they haven't even invited me to the party tomorrow. Sorry to hear that. I trust you're pestering the prince and your superiors to improve your standing. It's a process. Oh, Julia, you won't achieve anything if you don't keep reaching for it. Kadir, weren't you supposed to teach her the ropes? I'm trying to, Primogen, but with this child, it's always a process. I can only wish you good luck then. Good night, Julia. Good night, Kadir. Good night. Have a safe trip. You like her, don't you? Stop with your class clown act. Well, it only serves to reveal deep insecurities. Oh, that's harsh. It's factual. Why as harsh as you claim. She did tell us both to keep call her Samira, but you're still keeping her distance with that Primogen shit. Watch your profanity. And don't project your fantasies onto me. I won't give you a lesson about professional boundaries, but I suspect the way you will eventually learn it will be extremely unpleasant. Oh, Carter Vander Biden. Am I interrupting something, good folks? Even though I'm constantly pestering him, Kadir's composure is unshaken. His response comes swift and unfazed. Not at all, Mr. Vander Wyden. Heading back to your office? You know me, my dear sheriff. Where else would I go? Now that's curious. Even though Carter Vander Wyden is a Primogen as well. Malkavian. Oh, they're like the crazy ones. Plan Malkavian. The Clan of the Moon has earned its reputation as a place for total psychopaths. Yet there is a twisted kind of reason to the madness of their children of Malkav. Their condition seems suspended from gazing too deeply into their web of connections that govern the world. From learning too much, seeing too much, feeling too much. Blood is how they self-medicate. All Malkavians suffer a mental breakdown following their embrace. Often this is an exacerbation of disorders that are already present, but sometimes it is entirely new. Best described as unstable. There is no telling when a Malkavian will snap or drop some unexpectedly wise insight. Called oracles, jesters, or visionaries if you're being nice. Madmen, liabilities, and lunatics if you're not. Hope to see you tomorrow night. Oh, I will absolutely show up, provided I can. Just in case, I already apologize for not making it to the prince. Simply drowning in work these days. The rhythms, tempos, and intonation patterns of his voice are so familiar. Half of it sounds like JFK, the other half exactly like Barack Obama. Just like his appearance. Yeah, I forgot, this game just came out like last year, so it's very modern. He's old money, of course. Comes from a long line of Dutch merchants who originally settled in New York region. Runs a wildly successful law office. Rubs elbows with elites. How can he run that if he's so unstable? He seems perfect in every way, and that's why he's so unnerving. He's a child of Malkav. It must be blighted with some affliction. But whatever it is, he doesn't let it show. Hard not to wonder what he's hiding. The celebrations are planned to last all week. Surely you will find the time. I pray I will, good man. My good man, I pray I will. In case you need to reach me, you know where to find me. Have a good one. He doesn't even register my presence before leaving. Sometimes I think they're all still hoping I'll simply go away. As Carter drives away in his limousine, Kadir shakes his head. You wanted to hear about which member of New York City's Camarilla I dislike the most? Yes? He shoots me a knowing glance and smirks. Too bad. They're all my dear colleagues, and I deeply respect every single one of them. Sure you do. Wouldn't want to blurt something you could lock you out of Mr. Vander Wyden's legal services, would you? You ass-kisser. I do expect to find myself in need of a good defense attorney when my broke, incompetent, and foul-mouthed assistant finally pushes me over the edge. Rude. Do you still need me here? I still need to swing by St. Patrick's tonight. Don't worry, we're almost done. The prince is coming out. The captain is the last person to leave the ship, huh? And there she is, Helene Panhard. The big kahuna, as someone I once knew would call her. The de facto ruler of New York City, and self-professed patron of the arts. Kadir, no penny for your thoughts? You should be pleased to hear the High Regent is resigned to her fate, my prince. Mr. Vander Wyden is decidedly not. I suspect he will be too busy to join the festivities all the week through. She turns to me. Miss Lewinsky, weren't you supposed to accompany our good sheriff in his duties tonight? There was an unexpected change of plans. Catherine Weiss is back in the city. Catherine is here? Now that's a welcome surprise. But what does that have to do with you, Miss Lewinsky? Took care of her paperwork. She said she didn't want to trouble you with all the paperwork regarding our arrival, Prince Panhard. It's all been taken care of. Kadir has been informed of everything. That's certainly a nice gesture. But wait a minute now. Where exactly did you meet her? In a fast food restaurant, my prince. I see. Helene rubs her eyes. Catherine and her love for proletarian amusement. I suppose it will be a source of amusing anecdotes this week. If you want to avoid these situations in the future, it might be a good time to discuss offering Miss Lewinsky an office of her own. Damn, your boss standing up for you, getting you a pad. We'll get to it eventually. There are more pressing matters at hand. The festivities start tomorrow, and there's still so much to be done. Will you make sure the art hole is secure before leaving? Certainly, my prince. Have a good night. Good night, Kadir. Good night, Miss Lewinsky. We'll talk about your work soon. Don't worry. Of course. Good night, Prince Panhard. The chauffeur escorts her to a limo. There's an awkward silence between me and Kadir until the car disappears around the corner. More pressing matters, huh? Not pending for your thoughts, Sheriff? I'm certain an image of a Keeper of Elysium stuck in a fast food restaurant will linger in Prince Panhard's mind. You're far closer to your goal than you were a few minutes ago. I'm pretty sure I've heard you say something to that effect a few times now. And I stand by my words. Rome wasn't built in a day, Julia. As a Camarilla loyalist, don't you think it sucks that the Ivory Tower is so hell-bent on showing disrespect to my clan? They're actually willing to make fools of themselves in the process. We've all had to endure our hazing rituals, but yes, the current situation is not ideal. Whatever. You need a hand closing up on the Elysium? I'll manage. It's getting late. Better run. Oh. Some shadow in Chicago is probably impatient to get a copy of the reports you've given me. You've pleased one master. Now it's time to please the other. Yeah. Here's the thing about working for two masters. Neither of them really thinks of you as their own. Not knowing how to reply, Kadir shrugs. I wave him goodbye and head for the subway. It's interesting, they still have to use the subway. When I reach St. Patrick's Cathedral, I'm greeted by a voice that grates on me like teeth on tinfoil. Oswald Benoit. Well, well, well. The prodigal daughter returns. Oh my god, no. This is the one thing I didn't want to happen. Julia, please. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord, thy God, in vain. Uh-huh. Where's Father Leonard? His clergy duties kept him from getting here on time. He sent me to apologize in his name and keep you company for a few minutes. That's the second thing he ought to apologize for. He just wants his flock to live in unity. I am more than willing to oblige him. Why won't you? For the last time, I'm not part of his flock. We have a purely professional arrangement. I know you see it that way. The Knight clan's tendency to stick close to the Catholic Church is their greatest virtue, but they still consider this relationship purely instrumental. This is why we need kindred like you to bring the spiritual change to your clan, to make them understand God's precious gifts. The closer they get to the light, the greater the shadows will become. Okay, so do you want you to be a, I guess, try to get people more religious? This is weird. Again, with his insufferable sermonizing. Into a Mormon missionary. Benoit Segal here is a local nutjob and an ex-artist, a degenerate who has some sort of complete mental breakdown in the 90s. To recover, he took to religion for solace and guidance. Clan Toreador. Well, the most artistic of the kindred, the Toreador draw their ranks from the creative class, ranging from painters to digital content creators. The Clan of the Rose boasts many former famous actors, singers, writers, dancers, and even lauded sex workers. The goal is, of course, only to fill the Toreador clan with the best of the best, but its shallow fixation with youth and beauty has caused many hasty decisions. Probably more one-hit wonders under their roof than they care to admit. Also plenty of insufferable divas and influencers. Kadir is one of them, but surprisingly he doesn't show many of their regular traits. Maybe other than keeping themselves impeccably slick at all times. Kine. A derogatory way for vampires referring to mortals. Comes from kindred and Kine. Just remember that Kine rhymes with... Oh, no, it's kind. It's kind. Kind rhymes with swine, and you will get the picture. It's kind. At first, he proclaims his readiness to devote the rest of his own life to studying Nodism. After a few years, though, he changed his mind and joined the Catholic Church instead. What the hell is Nodism? Religious beliefs and studies pertaining to the origins of kindred and the myth of Cain, the alleged OG vampire. Okay, so that's more than alleged. So apparently in one of the other Vampire the Masquerade games, you actually meet Cain. As luck would have it, his neophyte zeal found him a major target in me. When I first met him, I was stupid enough to tell him I was raised Catholic and still identified as such, somewhat. He immediately pictures me as some sort of force for change within the Camarilla and set out to put me back on a righteous path. Now, he won't stop preaching to one, apparently, until I become a nun. Remember, the darkest place is directly under the candle. You turncoats have this unfortunate predisposition to find salvation right within your grasp, and then lose your way in the shadows. Christ, once he starts, he just won't stop. I guess it's time to bring out the big guns. By the way, I was meaning to ask, got any news about Sophie Langley? A painful grimace crosses his face, but doesn't linger. Kinda rude to change the subject, you know. Rude. I'm just looking for a topic both sides of this conversation would care about. You know, like any guide on etiquette says you should. Salvation is a topic close to anyone's heart, whether they admit it or not. It's pretty bold of you to assume I still care about Langley. I do not assume, I'm certain you do. The second she retires from the public eye, you start acting like Jesus-era Kanye and start acting like Jesus is King-era Kanye. Coincidence? I never had a Jesus-era. Do people really call it that? This is surprisingly, like, up to date. Here's how it's gonna work. Tell me what you know. I'll tell you what they say. And keep in mind, I didn't know she was your sire until a few nights ago. Hell, I haven't even met her. He winces a bit at me saying hell, but lets it go. Sure, I figure you were prodded that wound long ago if you knew. But what would you care anyway? What do you care anyway? Better to let you drone on about your tormented past than to let you carry on with your good missionary shtick. Professional curiosity. Once a journalist, always a journalist. He scratches his head, then exhales in a sad mockery of a chuckle. Fine then, I'll do my best to make it short. Just as you said, Sophie Langley, every New York kindred's beloved socialite, was my sire. We first met sometime after World War II. Huh? Wow. I left France right before the Nazis went around the Maginot Line? Is that how you pronounce it? I struggled to keep my siblings alive with my art. Watched my brother die during the flu pandemic of '43. That's the Spanish flu. I was close to losing my mind. That's when she showed up. Said the sheer torment in my works caught her eye. She became my patron, allowed my talents to flourish, and supported me financially. Eventually, she embraced me. As a well-off kindred, my artistic interests started naturally deviate from what they used to be back when I was a poor mortal upstart. I began to see the world the way her social circle does. And that she couldn't forgive. Instead of being a fun novelty, I became just another part of the melee surrounding her. She grew distant, and then stopped seeing me altogether. I've had my share of meltdowns because of this, I won't deny that. I locked myself out of many career opportunities, but it was an important lesson. Don't trust your elders. Vampirism affects them psychologically as well. If they take interest in you, they won't stop until they suck your soul dry and discard you like a broken toy. No. A few centuries on life will net you this big kindred milestone. An elder is only considered an elder after outlasting his or her fellow vampires for roughly 200 years. By then, they will have learned the rules of the great metagame of Jihad, the vast hidden war waged for ages between the ancient undead. Elders are the chess masters, the rest of us are only the pieces. Yada yada. For the first time since I known him, Seagal registers to me as something other than a Bible-thumping nuisance. Is it compassion I feel? Do I find him relatable? How dreadful. It's possible he's strategically trying to elicit sympathy. Maybe he's heard about my dramatic exit from Lodestar. Or maybe he's just alluding to the way my sire left me here to fend for myself. It is only God who will never lead you astray. This is why I find your act so frustrating, Julia. You're so close to getting it, but you choose sin instead. There's the Benoit Sagala I know. Almost had me fooled. Let's get back on track. What about Langley's disappearance from the city? Her path was a road to perdition. Wherever she ended up, I doubt she's too happy about it. She had plans for the future of the city. Wanted to make it her ultimate artwork. She was always the vain one. And of course, you're completely sure you have nothing to do with her disappearance? Please don't tell me you're getting at what I think you're getting at. Everybody says you've been acting like you're trying to repent for something ever since her vanishing act. And you got a motive. Of course I'm getting at what you think I'm getting at. Benoit shakes his head. You really have the devil in your heart, Julia. Always testing me. Just asking what everyone's thinking. Are they now? Listen, I'm familiar with a lot of the insults attached to my name in the city. Those aren't exactly compatible with the image of a ruthless killer. Killer, huh? Oh, that's interesting. I haven't said anything about killing. He scrubs his forehead over his hands over his forehead and collects himself for a response. Stop picking apart every word I say in this completely unpleasant way. Here's a statement if you really want one, Miss Hercule Poirot. Hey, I love that series. I do believe Sophie, the way I knew her, has met her end. Even if she's still walking this earth, she wouldn't come back here as the same prideful aristocrat. She'd have to undergo a spiritual rebirth. Someone has reminded her of her place. Her former friends talk of her in hushed tones. Even a servant play toy of her went missing. No more Camarilla parties. She's done for. Whatever happened to her, I don't know. I swear on Jesus and his sandals I had nothing to do with it. But yes, I'm still here, and she's not. It's not a reason to gloat, but to be more humble. I received a sign from God, telling me to re-examine all the unfortunate ways I still resemble Sophie Langley. And I listened. I rejected my pride. The pride I shared with her. I renewed my vows to God, and recommitted to preaching His greatness. I mean, this is why we're having this conversation in the first place. Right now, when I think of Langley's influence on my life, I'm grateful, because she was a sign that got me here. And if God wills it, maybe one day you'll look at her the same way, Julia. Mental note, whenever he circles back to this preachy tone, it's time to intervene. Alright. If it makes you feel any better, I could feel the only way a wimp like you could have hurt her was by boring her to death with Bible quotes. Now then, quid pro quo, tit for tat. You were saying people still talk about me. I was curious if... Oh, look who's finally here. Stalling for time worked. Father Leonard rushes in our direction, carrying a folder of documents under his arm. I assume it's the one I came here for. Father Leonard? Christ be praised, Julia. Yesterday I was told this is how priests greet their parishioners in Eastern Europe. Forever and ever. Amen. Actually, I think we said each other's lines. Never mind, another long night? Isn't it taking a toll on you? Ah, no need to worry. These days I sleep a few hours a day. Short naps take care of the rest, and there's always work to be done. I apologize for being late. At least, I managed to get here before you and Benoit went for each other's throats. Good, I was getting worried. Oh, who do you take me for, Father? Takes you for a total bozo who's about as effective as converting people as documentary of pedophilia in the Catholic Church. He's just too kind to say it. Ouch. Hear what I have to deal with, Father? But don't worry, we'll make a saint of her yet. Forget saint. For now, I'd settle for an adult in the room. Isn't that what you're for? I've been patient with that role, but by now you kids should be moving out. Not leaving crayon marks on the walls and throwing food around any time Daddy's not looking. So let's just focus on our grown-up duties, shall we, Julian? Here. He gives me a folder he was carrying with him, and I passed the reports I wrote earlier. Among kindred, it is common knowledge that the Catholic Church is La Samba's greatest assets. Hell, it might be even one of the main reasons the Camarilla is slowly warming up to our clan. We are technologically impaired, and as such, woefully unprepared to face the challenges of communicating in the 21st century. Hard to handle advanced encryption when you can't even unlock a smartphone. This is where the Vatican's connections enter the picture. A web of priests scattered around the world exchange our dispatches between each other, making sure they all reach their destinations in total secrecy. I was told not everyone in the Holy See is friendly to our kind, but the most shrewd and talented usually are. You can say they're like a mortal Camarilla, better than any intelligence agency. Remember what happened to John Paul I? When he attempted to uncover the workings of the Institute for the Works of Religion? Death after 33 days of papacy. Rumors of CIA and Masonic involvement. Not that Father Leonard has anything to do with any of this. For a Catholic priest, he's alright. He probably made me stay a believer a few years longer than I did had I known him as a teenager. Leonard is intelligent, kind, helpful towards his parishioners, treating his supervisors with a healthy dose of skepticism. He is not involved in any sort of political church games. Well, at least not beyond helping me contact my bosses in Chicago every other night or so. He knows about the kindred. He knows about the Second Inquisition. He opted to avoid the latter in order to keep the former from oppression, because according to him, it's the right thing to do. Second Inquisition. The philosophy of the war on terror applied to us kindred. Somewhere along the way, some deep state assholes decided the way to handle the existence of vampires was to treat us as terrorists. Yet the agents waging these operations against us often have no idea what the hell is going on. Because some intra-agency collaboration created to hunt us doesn't tell anyone anything, unless it's need to know. Among kindred, the term is most often abbreviated to SI. I know there's got to be something wrong with him, some selfish motivation, maybe, and I haven't nailed it down yet. But it doesn't feel like he's making an effort to hide it, so I'm giving him a pass. By the way, I hope you don't mind. I finally took the liberty of asking how your parents are doing. Thank you, Father, but you shouldn't. Not a problem. A priest as Saint Stanislaus Kotska is a good friend. He says your parents start showing up every Sunday again. Front rows. Your father is looking better and better. It makes me feel nothing, but I still give him a token nod and a grateful smile. Oh, the sunrise is almost here. Yes, be careful. God bless you. Amen. Goodbye, Julia. I'll let you off the hook this time, but next time you won't be so lucky, alright? Sure, just one more thing on my never-ending list of events I'm not looking forward to. It's time to call it a night. Oh, Dakota's still here. Wait, what? Aren't you asleep? I figure it's finally time for me to become more of a night owl. We talked about making our schedule sync better. Watch your vitamin D. I'd kill to have your skin. Be ashamed to waste it. Shouldn't have smoked so much before you got bitten, sweetheart. Oh, she knows. Should have scared your skincare routine with me back when I was still breathing. I can't just go around sharing my one secret weapon. It's top secret stuff. MK Ultra level, Jeffrey Epstein's current whereabouts level. I'd have to kill you if I told you. Okay then, love you too, hon. So the attitude. We're beyond hiding secrets from each other. I guess I was wrong, but okay, I get it. I really do. Time out. You're not really mad, are you? Nah, it's just my inner asshole teasing you. Never mind. I feel more self-conscious than usual tonight. It's all in the backstage stuff. What makes you think I was invited? Ah, because you're the coolest, cutest, most all-around amazing person I know. It'd be insane not to put you on the short list. Believe it or not, but most vampires are pretty insane. Interdimensional psychic vampire level insane, because that's how crazy they have to be to ignore you like this. So was she supposed to know about it? Fuck them then. A big bunch of posh dicks. They hate you because they ain't you, but they'll see. You always assault me with this, so much of this weird, stupid positivity I can't react to it without completely shifting my mental attitude. How do you do it? Ketamine? Come on. What? No, wrong drawer. We're not meeting demons, we're meeting angels. MDMA? Yep, took it half an hour ago. Perfect timing. Thanks for a spiritual connection. Yeah, I'm not used to a game referencing like SoundCloud for, you know, for example. Okay, how long have we been going? Oh, an hour and a half. Yeah, we'll call it here. This is, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And you can't, like, save scum, right? Yeah, you can't save scum. So you have to play the game from the beginning every time you meet a dead end. Well, anyway, we'll continue this tomorrow. Alright, guys. See you.